What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to continue working on our Camaro and showing you guys how to set up the fuel pressure and also do one final test that I wasn't able to do on the nitrous system. That is right, guys, the car is pretty much back on the ground. I drove it around, everything is great, but from all the tests we did, we still didn't do the final one, which is setting up the fuel pressure. And that's because we didn't have any kind of fuel. I went ahead and I bought some 93 octane, which is what we're gonna run to kind of just set up all the stuff and do that properly. It is such a beautiful day outside, guys. Sunny, fresh, and of course we've got our Camaro here in the garage. Let's go ahead and pop the trunk and show you guys still our system here. And of course we've got our tank, and when we did all the tests for the solenoid relays, we went ahead and disconnected the pump because we didn't need that running since I didn't have any fuel, and we went ahead and did all the tests. But we've got some 93 octane gas. We're gonna fill up the tank and we're gonna run the pumps to make sure that there's no leaks either here or in the engine bay, and also test the fuel pressure safety switch. As we'll also see that I've added this little plastic inline vent valve for the tank. Now without this, you just have a straight vent. You're basically gonna have the fumes from either your 93 octane or your race gas venting to the atmosphere, and here in the garage, where the car sits most of its time, you know, it would just end up causing the garage to smell. Specifically the race gas, it's got a little nice stronger smell, and of course the fumes end up reducing its strength, and race gas tends to have a shorter half-life, and that is why it was recommended that I go ahead and install this vent tube. Now it is one extra step I got to take every time I drive the car. I got to make sure, especially in hot temperatures, when this gets warm, if I'm running it, I don't want this to build pressure or anything like that, so I got to make sure that this is open. But when I get into the house and park it inside the shade inside the garage, just come in here, close it off, and then we are good to go. We don't have to worry about it smelling or anything like that here in the garage. We're gonna pour about 1 gallon of 93 in here and let it start circulating and see what the pressure builds up to, and hopefully that we don't see any leaks. And up front, you'll see here is where we're gonna adjust our pressure, and the way you do that is you loosen up the set screw and you use an Allen wrench and either screw the bolt inwards or outwards to adjust the pressure. We've got our gauge here that we're going to be using to see what pressure we want to adjust to, and then of course we've got our fuel pressure safety switch, which I didn't change any settings, but it is set to trigger or turn off under 35 psi from the factory. So if we have this set to less than 35 psi, then it'll never complete the ground circuit for our nitrous relays, and therefore these will never have power. If it's over 35 psi, then this should close the circuit and we should see power to our relays, and we can definitely test that. Okay, so we're gonna put the car into accessory mode. Got everything going up there. So now here's gonna be the moment of truth. We're gonna arm the switch, but just for a few seconds, let it build some pressure up, and then we're gonna turn it off, and then we'll go and see if there are any leaks from our fuel regulator. Okay, turned it off, just a few seconds. Now let's come over here and see if we see any leaks, anything like that. I don't see anything. Don't feel any leaks or anything coming from any fittings of any sort. So let's go ahead and run it a little bit longer and see what it does. So back here you guys see we don't have any leaks. Nothing here, nothing on this line, so we're good. Nothing on the return line. Alright, so here you guys see it's flowing. You can hear it flowing, and it's only at right around under 20 psi, but you hear it flowing. I don't see any leaks, nothing is happening, which is good. So now as we adjust this set screw, this pressure should start building up. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so we screwed this quite a bit down. Let's see what our pressure goes up to now. Alright, check it out, guys. So now we are almost at 60 psi, and I don't see any leaks anywhere. So our system is working perfectly. That is awesome. Perfect. Now we just got to adjust this. All right, guys, so we've got the fuel pressure regulator set up to 45 psi, and now the only thing we want to do, and the last thing we need to check, is to ensure that our fuel pressure safety switch is working properly. Now the fuel pressure safety switch is the one switch that is in line that will cut out or provide the ground to our nitrous relay, which sends the 12-volt signal whenever we arm the system. In a proper working system, the moment you arm the switch and the fuel pressure goes up over the 35 psi preset on the safety switch, the ground is provided and the relays, the nitrous solenoids and fuel solenoid, are both getting 12-volt power. It isn't until the nitrous controller turns on and activates that it provides the ground for the nitrous solenoids and fuel solenoids to work. So whenever we tested to make sure that the solenoids were working, we bypassed that safety switch because we hadn't set up our fuel regulator setup. But now that it's set up, we want to just ensure that whenever the fuel pressure is up and working and set up where it needs to be, that the solenoids are still seeing the 12 volts. Now we don't want to actually activate the nitrous controller, because then you'll actually start spraying fuel, and we don't want to do that. But with a multimeter, we can just test the output of our nitrous relay and see if the relays are getting the 12 volts that they should be getting instantly when we arm the system, or if they're not. And because again, that is all dependent on that fuel pressure safety switch. And we can also adjust the fuel pressure regulator and drop it down, make it go down under, let's say 20 psi or below the 35 psi limit, and then also check to see if these relays are getting the 12 volts, which they shouldn't, because the fuel pressure safety switch would open up and not allow the ground to be available for the nitrous and fuel solenoids. So let's go ahead and test all that and show you guys what I mean. Okay, so we've got the system armed, we've got the fuel pressure going, everything is running, it's at set where it needs to be. So now we're going to show you what the output of this relay is showing with the voltmeter here. As you guys can see, we saw 12 volts. The relay is outputting. Now we're going to go ahead and actually reduce this to under about 35 psi. So you'll see here, we're going to start dropping this down, and you'll also hear the relay click off when we reach the threshold point. If you hear very closely, you'll hear the relay right about here. Okay, so let's go down to, there we go, the relay just clicked actually, and it was right around 30 psi. But let's just keep going down to, let's say, 22, 24 psi, 25 psi or so. And we're going to show you again the output from the relay and show you that it is actually 0, which means that even if the nitrous system closed, the nitrous controller closed the loop and provided the ground for the car to actually activate when it's supposed to be spraying, because the fuel pressure is really low, it is not going to actually trip and turn on because there is no power to the relays. Check it out. So as you guys saw, we had 0 volts, and that means that we are good to go. So let's go ahead and we'll set this back up, and we know our pressure safety switch is working properly. And just to show you guys, I think you'll be able to see when it actually clicks, or hear when it clicks, going up over the 35 psi limit. Just keep an eye on it. Hopefully it can come through the camera. Right around here. There you go. You can actually hear the, I'm gonna turn it back down. There you go, you hear it click. I'm gonna turn the pressure back up over the 35 and it clicks again. So let's go ahead and set this back up to 45 PSI and we are good to go, guys. All right, guys, so everything all checked out well. All the fuel pressure is good. The safety switch is working properly. So now we need to do the last thing, and that is probably maybe the thing that you need to do at the very beginning, but I did at the very end because you do not want to forget, guys, is go ahead and actually install the appropriate size jets that you want on your nitrous for whatever shot you're going to be running. I'm going to be starting this off with just a 50 shot, so we're going to put in the appropriate size jets for a 50 shot. So of course, as you guys can see here, the nitrous has a set sized jets that you go for the different horsepower between 50, 100, 150, and 200. And of course, you're going to use the nitrous jets accordingly. And depending on how your fuel pressure is and how your system is set up, if you're running off a stock fuel rail, you're more than likely going to be running the 55 PSI jet. But we're running it off of our standalone, which means we're going to, and we have the standalone set at 45 PSI. So we're going to be using the 45 PSI row. So for a 50 shot, we need a size 35 nitrous jet and a 17 PSI jet. And of course, like this says here, it's custom built product and the jetting may vary. So even though we put the 35 and the 17, we still want to look at our air fuel ratio during a data log to make sure that the air and fuel is exactly where it needs to be. If it's a little too lean, then we might need to go with a bigger jet. For the fuel, maybe a 18, not a 17. Or if it's a little too rich, you can always back it down, or basically adjust your fuel based on your AFR and what your tuner recommends. So I'm going to be doing the logs and talking over with Pat G, making sure that he gives me the appropriate size. If he tells you, hey, you might want to go up one size on the fuel or vice versa, then I'm going to listen to him, and that way we can have the car running exactly where it needs to be running with the jets. So we're going to, as a good baseline though, we can follow this chart and put a 35 size nitrous jet, which will go in here, and I'll show you guys how those go, and a 17 fuel jet. Now your kit will come with pretty much every single one of these sizes there, so it's very good sorted kit. But if you feel like you need to get something to get your car to the right dial and it's not in the kit, it's not part of these preset ones, Nitrous Outlet does sell individual jets, and you can get exactly whatever size you need. Now I've already got here my two different ones, and of course we've got the 35 for our nitrous, and then we've got our 17 for our 45 PSI fuel. So what I'm going to do is remove these lines and install the one for the fuel first, because it's under here and it gets harder to kind of tighten up, and this one's kind of in the way. So we'll move this one out of the way and do the bottom one first. And the way that these jets go, guys, they basically go installed like this. You get the back end, you stick it in, and it basically reduces and makes this fitting kind of clamp in on and fit just the inside there. It has the same kind of flush mount AN style on the inside, but the fittings just go stuck in like so, and that is what creates the pressure, the reduction of how much nitrous and fuel you're bringing into the system. We just need the nitrous and we will be ready to test. That took a while, but you know, I hope that this nitrous series kind of helped everybody understand how to build it, and someone looking to possibly do this on their own Camaro, this hopefully helps. These series of videos hopefully helps you guys. But in the meantime, we'll just wait for the nitrous and hope that we can get some here in the next, you know, week or two. Hopefully with the current world situation, we can find some and get some testing done. But in the meantime, I'm gonna finish this up. I'm gonna pull the car out, and we're gonna show you guys some two-stepping on this car. Now, I've only done the two-step at about 1500 RPMs, but I'm gonna turn that up to 2500 and we'll do a few two-steps and show you guys just how that sounds. Check it out, guys. That thing sounds good. Now, as you guys can see inside my exhaust tips, the shadow chrome paint is already peeling off, and over here on this one, you guys can see where it basically kind of chunked off the top part of the lip there. So, sorry for the wind, but I think that's because of the two-stepping. When it pops, it gets really loud, and so I love that look, so I might just have to go get the car, the tips removed again and powder coated so that they can withstand the heat. Wow. Now, I was inside the car with the windows up and I could hear that. Those pops are insane. Now, I need to go back and look at the video. I doubt you can see any flames, especially when it's bright out and sunny. But man, this thing sounds so good. That was at 2500 RPM, guys, and it just hollered. It screamed. Sounded really awesome. Man, super healthy. I love it. I love it. Got to give it a nice little wash, but you know, that'll come here sometime this week. I'll wash it all down, and I can't wait to go on a little cruise and all that. But anyways, guys, sorry for the wind noise, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys liked what you saw, and hopefully it'll be helpful for some of you guys working on your nitrous kits. But with that said, guys, I'll hope to see you guys in the next video.